Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over the M85 pistol that you see right here. This one's got a lot of cool things going for it. First and foremost, the thing that I know a lot of Americans like is that it takes AR-15 magazines. So those of you that have watched the channel for a while and been subscribing know that a couple months ago I put out a video, I guess warning or notifying people that these pistols would not be produced anymore. So the factory over in Serbia, the Zastava factory, would no longer be producing these pistols, so therefore they would not be imported anymore. So what's in the country now is all there's going to be. Now the reason I point that out is these things are pretty sweet little pistols. They're very reliable. They have the AK action, take AR mags. There's a lot to like there. And these right now, anyway, as of this video, are going for under $600 in most places. I think the reason for that is a lot of people don't realize the shortage that's coming of them. Like many guns like this that see some production, they are reasonably priced for a while, like when this video is coming out. After that, the price skyrockets, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen with this little sucker right here. So what we're going to do next is get into some of the details of it, and then after that, we'll let you know what we think of it overall. Up top we have the M85NP or November Papa. Down on the bottom we have the M85 PV or Papa Victor. So you can see the biggest difference that's quite obvious is going to be the magazine well. This one here has magwell to accept AR-15 mags. Now it's also different on the inside. I don't mean like mechanically so with the operation of the rifle. However, you can't just take this magwell off and then start using M85 PV mags in there. It just doesn't work like that. So they made some modifications to the inside of the receiver to accommodate for feeding from an AR-15 magazine. So you can't go back and forth. Just keep that in mind if you're debating on doing that if you buy the rifle. So you can't do that. But that really is the big difference. Other than that, there's a couple small differences. Number one, the big one here is going to be the serial number location. On the old model, it was right here on the rear of the receiver. Now the problem with that was when you went to SBR this rifle, if you're going to use an underfolding stock, which this does have the underfolding trunnion on it, both of them do, you would obscure the serial number, and that was causing some issues with the ATF. Now, it went back and forth as to whether or not it was really an issue. Regardless, on the new one here, you can see they moved the serial number up front, so that's no longer an issue. Another thing I should have mentioned when showing the differences was that the old ones came with a 26mm thread protector on here, and that thread protector was welded. This one actually comes with our booster here, and for those that don't know, this product here is designed to be a booster, not a flash hider nor a brake. So what it does, I'm going to back it out here, and obviously 26mm threads, they're backwards for people who are from the Western world and not from the Soviet bloc. This is designed to boost the gas going back into the operating system. So that way, if your rifle's really dirty, if you have underpowered ammunition, whatever the case may be, it's going to give a little bit more gas coming up through our gas block here and pushing the piston back. So you don't need it, though. That was one of the big questions I got when I put this pictures of this on social media, was that how it ran without it. So we ran it with a night brake a good bit. Without it, the Manticore Arms night brake had 0 issues. So you don't need it. But if you have a undergassed rifle, or if it's really, really dirty and you never ever clean it, might be a good idea to keep the booster on there. If not, it just kind of looks cool. Certainly if you're up for cutting some wire, you can put this on here, these two pieces, and probably cut the wire. I would imagine that's very rarely used though in real life, but it is an option. And the barrel there, you can see it's kind of recessed into there, which is sort of odd on most sort of crank style pistols or rifles. The barrel's going to come right up here flush, but not so on the M85. The front sight block is where you're going to adjust your windage and elevation just like any other AK out there. So just put your front sight tool in there and go to work. It did originally have sort of a backup night sight, which you could flip up here. This one here has long since died and is no longer glowing or anything like that. So I'm generally going to keep mine out of the way and use the standard AK post. However, if you wanted to put any sort of aftermarket post in there, like an XS Big Dot or a fiber optic one, you can do so. So it's standard in terms of that function. On the opposite side of your front sight block, we do have our sling attachment point here. And then moving on back, one thing I want to point out that's sort of unique about this pistol or rifle is that the M85 PAP has a unique gas tube. So I was actually planning on putting an Ultimac on here to use during the review. I contacted Ultimac because I couldn't find a single one that listed the M85 as compatible. They actually wrote me back and said that they don't make one for the M85 that has a unique gas tube, and it's not like the M92, which they do make an Ultimac for, so they don't make one for it. So if you want to run some red dots or something like that on there, take a look at the Manticore Arms one that we had earlier in the video that we showed you that we have in our other M85, because that one works just fine. But just something to take into consideration if you're looking at buying one of these pistols. Continuing to move rearward, we do have a reinforced trunnion here. This is a 1.5 millimeter trunnion. It's on both sides, has that bulge in there to sort of strengthen the barrel and receiver interface. Now the M92 doesn't have it. A lot of folks think the M92 would have it, the M85 wouldn't have it. Why this has it and the other one doesn't, I don't know, guys. We'll leave that up to a forum debate for another day, but the 85s do all have it. The rivets here on the receiver really look good, as you'd expect for any Comblock factory AK. And we do have our AK safety here with the cutout, so that way if you want to lock the bolt open and show, you know, that the weapon's clear, you can do so. Of course, you're not, even if you have a magazine that would lock the bolt to the rear, which none of the AR ones do, but just hypothetically speaking here, guys, if you have an AK safety like that, it's not going to line up with it. However, for those of you that shoot on ranges that require you to lock your bolt open to show clear, it is an advantage for it. That's really the only one I can think of. But other than that, you send it down, the bolt will go home and go into battery. Before getting into the magazine compatibility, I want to mention that regardless of magazine used, this pistol has been 100% reliable so far. We've used the majority of it's been 55 grain Freedom Munitions remanufactured, but also used some Wolf 55 grain steel case stuff, as well as some Federal 69 grain match ammo. All of it's functioned 100%. Now, magazine compatibility is what we're going to talk about here. It comes with a Tapco AR-15 mag, which Tapco mags being what they are, I've never had a problem with the AR-15 mags. Take that for what it's worth. Of course, traditionally I use mostly PMags here on the channel. We also use some Lancers. In this particular pistol, we've used Gen 2 PMags, Gen 3 PMags, Tapco, USGI mags, and then also some Lancer mags and Daniel Defense mags. All of them function 100%. Now, there's one issue though. The Gen 3 PMag that you see here, let me flip it over and show you. So the Gen 3 PMag, let's see if we can line all these up here and show you, has this bulged area right atop where the mag catch is. You can see how it's sort of sticking out there. If I turn it to the side, maybe you'll see it a little better. The Gen 2 nor the Tapco have that. Now what I found is you can put the mag in just fine. It'll feed, no problem, but when you go to pull it out, it gets stuck, and you have to actually pull the bolt all the way back and like depress that with some sort of tool or something to actually be able to remove your mag. So I don't recommend that unless you only want to fire 30 rounds. But with the other mags, like for instance the Tapco here that it comes with, you just put it in, you can see the mag catch. When you depress it, it comes right out. So any of these, I found that Tapco and the USGI sort of went in and out of the mag well as freely as possible. The other ones sort of hung up. For instance, the Tapco and the USGI would drop free. The PMags, the Lancers, and the Daniel Defense wouldn't drop free, but would come out when you hit the button and sort of just pulled on them. It's like that. So take that for what it's worth. On the left side of the receiver, you'll see there's no provision from the factory for mounting a rail-mounted optic. So again, the Manticore is probably the best option for that. The grip here is a pretty traditional Serbian or Yugo, depending on how you want to say it, grip. Much better, in my opinion, than the PEG AK grip. But if you want to run a Magpul in there or something like that, it will work just fine. The trigger on this is factory Yugo. So the beauty of that is you don't have to use an aftermarket trigger due to 922R compliance with pistols like you would with a rifle. So trigger is very nice. It breaks right around 3.5 pounds on mine, so you pull it back, really nice. And it has a real nice reset to it as well. No trigger slap like you get with some Comblock triggers, so all around, really like the trigger on this pistol. Disassembly is pretty standard AK stuff. You'll see here, it does have the hinged top cover due to the rear sights here. The rear sights are mounted on the top cover. They are graduated for both 200 meters and 400 meters. One thing I should point out on these sights is that after this review, I wanted to leave them as they are now for the review, but after this review, I will be filing down a V-notch in that 200 meter there to be able to pick up the sights a little quicker. The notch is a little too narrow for me. I have pretty good eyesight, but it just takes me too long to pick it up. So very quick fix with a 60-degree file, but just something to throw out there. So you're going to want to push the back spring in, pull the top cover up, and you'll see here it does hinge like that. At that point, we can pull our spring out, our bolt carrier group, and the rifle is disassembled or field stripped. One thing you'll notice when you look in here is that we do have a chrome lined cold hammer forged barrel. The barrel's right just over 10 inches, I should say, and many of the Serbian rifles or pistols do not have chrome lined barrels. The 5.56 ones do though, so chrome lined and cold hammer forged, you're going to get some pretty good barrel life out of that, I'd imagine. And looking inside the receiver, pretty standard AK stuff with the exception of the underfolding rear trunnion here. So if you want to put an underfolder on it and SBR it, really simple to do. You just got to drill the holes out and install your underfolding stock. Now, the spring there is very standard AK stuff, as you can see here. And take a look at the bolt. Like I said, it's in the raw, but no issues with it at all. I know people are going to ask about mushrooming just because that's what people talk about on AK forums these days. No mushrooming at all. And you can see the pin there through the gas piston. Cleaned it up pretty good for the review, but this sucker is going to be getting dirty here again soon. At this point, we've already mentioned reliability and price, so a couple other things, right? Shooting this in pistol configuration, which we did, I was pleasantly surprised to see that I could actually hit targets with it. Now, for steel targets, I never bring them in with rifle calibers anyway, any closer than 75 meters. So had this one at 75 meters and was actually able to get some hits with it. Again, pleasantly surprised with that, because when you're shooting without a sling or some sort of brace system, it's very difficult to get the pistol stable, but was able to get some hits. However, it's much slower than when you're using that arm brace. Now, we had the SIG brace on there, but there's a whole bunch of different braces that will work with this pistol, because there's plenty of adapters for these AK pistols out there. So if you're looking for stability and being able to control recoil and have faster follow-up shots and have better accuracy, absolutely recommend getting a brace or SBRing it. So that's for sure. Now, of course, there was no shouldering in this video at all because the ATF highly frowns upon that, especially if you have a camera in front of you. So if you get one, I'm not saying to shoulder it at all. Keep that in mind. So that's pretty much it, guys. Real good reliability. In terms of accuracy, it was very hard to judge because, again, it's tough to get stable without having a stock in there. But based on some of the Yugo rifles that we've seen before, I'd be willing to guess this one's going to shoot right around 2 to 3 inch groups at 100 yards with most 5.56 ammo out there. Again, offhand, I was able to ring a 10-inch plate, you know, shooting it as a pistol at 75 yards without problem. So pretty good accuracy for sure. If you guys have any questions about this, by all means post below in the comment section. But again, these won't be available at reasonable prices for very long. So if you're on the fence, get off the fence, guys. Go ahead and pick them up because in the future they'll be collector's items. If you guys have any questions about it, like we said, get them and then ask the questions. You can also post those questions over at my Facebook page or below in the comments. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and we hope to see you in the next video.